Have you ever met someone who seemed almost too good to be true?
I'm talking about that person who walks into a room and instantly commands it, not with noise, but with an almost gravitational pull.
They look you in the eye, and for a moment, you feel like the only person in the world.
You trust them immediately, you like them immensely, and you'd probably do anything they asked.
But as you walk away, a small, quiet part of your brain sends a warning signal.
That felt a little too easy, a little too perfect.
This feeling isn't just a sign of charm or confidence.
It's the signature of a rare and potent psychological skill set. Throughout history, some of the most influential leaders, industry titans, and even the most destructive cult leaders all shared this one powerful trait.
It's a quality I call dangerous charisma.
And it works by tapping into the very core of our human desires and fears.
But what is it really? How does it operate on a psychological level?
And most importantly, how can you learn to see it for what it is?
In this video, we're going to pull back the curtain and reveal the psychological architecture behind this incredible power.
If a specific person came to mind when I asked that first question, you know exactly the feeling we're talking about.
You're not alone, and you're not crazy for feeling that way.
Now, it's crucial to understand that when I say dangerous charisma, I'm not necessarily talking about something evil. Think of it like a master craftsman's tool. It can be used to build a beautiful house or to break down a door. The danger lies not in the tool itself, but in its power and the intention of the person wielding it.
To put it simply, there's a key difference between everyday charm and this amplified version.
Normal charisma makes you like them.
Dangerous charisma makes you like yourself, but only when you're with them.
This distinction is more important now than ever before.
We live in a world saturated with influencers, leaders, and brands all vying for our attention and trust.
Understanding the mechanics of profound influence isn't just fascinating, it's a critical skill for modern survival. To truly decode this phenomenon, we're going to dissect the 4 psychological pillars that form its foundation.
These are the core techniques that, when combined, create a reality distortion field that is incredibly difficult to resist.
We'll start with the first and most fundamental pillar, the one that lays the groundwork for everything that follows.
By the end of this journey, that subtle feeling of unease you felt will be replaced by the clarity of understanding. The first pillar of dangerous charisma is a concept we can call hyper-present mirroring.
This isn't just about active listening or nodding along in a conversation. It's an intense, laser-focused state of presence where the charismatic individual attunes themselves completely to you. They don't just hear your words, they absorb your cadence, your posture, your emotional state. Their body language subtly shifts to match yours, a process called isopraxism. If you lean forward, they lean forward a moment later. If you speak softly, their voice drops to meet yours. It's so subtle that it bypasses your conscious mind entirely. But what's the psychology behind this, and why is it so disarmingly effective? It comes down to a fundamental human need that is rarely ever met, the profound desire to be truly seen and understood. In our distracted world, receiving someone's undivided attention is the rarest and most valuable currency. When someone gives you this gift of pure presence, your brain's defense mechanisms begin to power down. The parts of your mind responsible for threat detection and skepticism go quiet. This person feels safe because, on a primal level, they feel like us. They are literally reflecting you back at yourself, and we are all programmed to trust ourselves. Imagine a masterful con artist meeting a skeptical investor. The investor sits back, arms crossed, with a guarded posture.
The con artist doesn't try to counter with over-the-top enthusiasm.
Instead, they adopt a similar, more relaxed version of that posture, speaking in calm, measured tones. They don't talk about the investment yet. They ask about the investor's day, their challenges, their perspective.
As the investor unconsciously relaxes and uncrosses their arms, the con artist mirrors this shift moments later.
Within minutes, the investor feels a strange sense of rapport with this person.
They feel understood, and the deal is halfway done before a single number is mentioned.
That is the power of making someone the center of your universe, even for just a moment.
It's the foundation upon which all other techniques are built. But just making someone feel seen isn't enough to forge an unbreakable bond.
The truly masterful influencers use a paradoxical technique to build trust, and it's all about showing weakness.
This brings us to the second pillar, controlled vulnerability. Our natural instinct is to present our best, most competent self to others, hiding our flaws and failures. Dangerously charismatic people understand this is an amateur's mistake. They know that perfection creates suspicion, while curated imperfection creates trust. Controlled vulnerability is the art of sharing a seemingly personal flaw or struggle that is strategically designed to make you more relatable and trustworthy. It's not a confession of a deep, dark secret that could actually damage their reputation. Instead, it's often a past struggle that has already been overcome, casting them as resilient. Or it's a minor, endearing flaw that makes them seem more human and down to earth. Herein lies the psychological paradox. By revealing a minor weakness, they appear far stronger and more authentic. This tactic brilliantly subverts our expectations. When someone in a position of power or influence admits a flaw, it triggers a powerful response in us. First, it disarms our skepticism. We think someone with something to hide would never admit that. Second, it makes us feel empowered and safe to share our own vulnerabilities. It creates an immediate, albeit artificial, bond of intimacy and shared humanity. Think of a new CEO addressing a nervous company for the first time. Instead of boasting about her Ivy League degree and past successes, she might start with a story. She could talk about her first ever project, how she was overly ambitious, and how it was a complete and utter failure. She would then explain that this failure taught her the most valuable lesson of her career, the importance of teamwork and listening. In one short story, she has achieved several things. She has become human and relatable, not just a corporate suit. She has reframed a past weakness as a current strength. And she has subtly communicated her values without having to state them explicitly. The entire workforce breathes a collective sigh of relief. They are in good hands. This is why the act of sharing is so critical. So they don't share a weakness to show they're human. They share a weakness to prove you are. It's a way of saying, I'm flawed, so you don't have to pretend you're not, which makes you incredibly susceptible to their influence. It's a powerful combination, isn't it? The perfect presence combined with just enough vulnerability to seem human. If you're fascinated by uncovering these hidden forces that shape human behavior, this is pretty much all we do here. Take a moment to subscribe so you don't miss out on more deep dives into psychology and influence. How could you possibly say no to someone so well-equipped?
Well, it gets even more powerful.
So we have hyper-presence and controlled vulnerability. But the next piece of the puzzle is what separates a charming person from a movement builder. This is Pillar 3, future pacing and shared dreams. This technique involves painting a vivid, compelling picture of a desirable future and, crucially, placing the listener directly inside that picture. It's not just about setting goals or having a vision. It's about making that future feel so real, so tangible, that it feels like an almost inevitable reality. The psychological mechanism at play here is incredibly potent. Our brains are not very good at distinguishing between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When a charismatic leader future paces you, they are essentially running a simulation in your mind. They use sensory language to describe what you will see, what you will hear, and most importantly, what you will feel when you achieve this shared dream. This bypasses the logical, critical part of your brain and speaks directly to the emotional, hopeful part. You stop evaluating whether the dream is possible and start becoming emotionally invested in its outcome. Suddenly, working 12-hour days for this person isn't a chore. It's a necessary step toward the beautiful future they painted for you. Think of the way Steve Jobs launched Apple products. He didn't just list technical specifications or compare them to competitors. Our new device has a 5 GB hard drive. It's 1,000 songs in your pocket. One is a feature, the other is a future. He would paint a picture of a world made more creative, more connected, and more elegant by this new tool. He made you feel what it would be like to be part of that future, to be one of the crazy ones changing the world. People didn't line up for hours to buy a phone. They lined up to buy a piece of that future. This is how charismatic individuals inspire fanatical devotion. They don't just sell you a product or an idea, they sell you a better version of yourself, living in a better version of the world. And the price of admission is simply your belief and your compliance. So far, these traits of intense presence, strategic vulnerability, and future pacing might even sound desirable. Many great leaders use them for positive ends, but this fourth and final pillar is where charisma often curdles into something genuinely dangerous. We call it Pillar 4, the weaponized halo effect. The halo effect is a well-known cognitive bias where our overall impression of a person influences how we feel and think about their specific traits. For example, if we perceive someone as physically attractive, we are more likely to also rate them as intelligent, kind, and trustworthy, even with no evidence. Dangerously charismatic individuals don't just benefit from this bias, they actively cultivate and weaponize it. The first 3 pillars we discussed are the tools they use to construct an overwhelmingly positive halo around themselves. Their hyper-presence makes you feel seen, their vulnerability makes them seem authentic, and their vision makes them appear inspirational. The resulting halo is so bright and so powerful that it becomes a shield. It deflects criticism, excuses bad behavior, and blinds followers to glaring red flags. When a person with a powerful halo does something questionable, our brains experience cognitive dissonance. It's the discomfort of holding 2 conflicting beliefs. This person is good, and this person did a bad thing. To resolve this discomfort, the easiest path for our brain is not to reevaluate the person, but to reinterpret the action. So their lies become strategic communication, their cruelty becomes tough but necessary leadership, and their failures become part of a larger, misunderstood plan. Consider a beloved celebrity whose charm and public persona have won them millions of adoring fans. They've spent years building a halo of being funny, relatable, and generous. Then a story breaks about their terrible behavior behind the scenes, mistreating staff or engaging in unethical conduct. What is the immediate public reaction? A large portion of their fan base will leap to their defense, attacking the accusers and creating elaborate justifications for the behavior. They are not defending the person's actions. They are defending their own positive judgment of the person. The halo is so strong that it warps the reality of everyone around them. This is the true danger, when charisma is no longer about connection, but about control and the insulation from consequence. Okay, enough theory. This is fascinating, but it's also terrifying. So, what can you actually do about it? The goal is not to become a cynical person who trusts no one. Charisma itself isn't bad. Genuine, warm, charismatic people enrich our lives. The key is awareness, having a mental toolkit to differentiate between genuine warmth and calculated influence. So here are 3 simple reality check questions you need to burn into your brain. When you feel yourself being swept away by someone's charm, pause and ask these. What do they actually want? Look past their inspiring words and focus on the actions they are asking you or others to take. Is there a consistent pattern of them benefiting at others' expense? What happens if I say no? Genuinely charismatic people handle rejection with grace. A manipulator's charm, however, will often vanish the moment you become an obstacle, replaced by pressure, guilt, or anger. This is the most effective test for revealing their true intentions. And third, is my excitement based on evidence or just emotion? Acknowledge the feeling of excitement or inspiration, but then step back and ask if it's supported by facts, data, and observable reality. Are you excited about a proven plan, or just the feeling you got when the plan was described? When you feel the pull, ask yourself, what do they want? What happens if I say no? And is this feeling based on fact? These questions act as an anchor, keeping you grounded in reality when the powerful tide of charisma tries to sweep you away. Now, let's bring this all together. We've journeyed through the 4 pillars that form the architecture of dangerous charisma. We saw how hyper-present mirroring creates an instant subconscious rapport. We explored how controlled vulnerability paradoxically builds trust by showcasing curated flaws. We understood how future pacing bypasses logic by selling an emotionally charged dream. And we uncovered how the weaponized halo effect uses this charm to create a shield against accountability. Separately, each of these is a powerful social skill. But when they are combined by a single individual with a specific goal, they create something more. They create a system for influencing human perception. It becomes clear that this level of charisma isn't just about being liked or being persuasive in a single moment. Ultimately, dangerous charisma isn't about influence. It's about reality control. And the person whose reality they seek to control first is yours. So think back to that person from the beginning, the one who felt too good to be true. Now you know the feeling wasn't random, and the pull wasn't magic. It was a blueprint, and now you have a copy. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. Who is the most dangerously charismatic public figure you can think of? Let me know your examples in the comments below. I read as many as I can. If you want to continue decoding human behavior and arming yourself with knowledge, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching.